I've never met a person that didn't have an iniquity in their vows. Every person that I know has these, and I had multiple inner vows and iniquities, and so did Karen. And so parents, in Deuteronomy chapter 6, here's what God says to parents. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. And these words which I command you today shall be in your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorpost on your house and on your gates. Now, two commandments there. The first is, love me with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. You're not prepared to parent until you have a relationship with God. You cannot be the parent that you need to be unless you have a dependency upon the Lord and you're a godly parent. Now, in Genesis chapter 1, God came to Adam and Eve, and He put His image on them and then said, go and fill the earth and multiply and fill the earth. He put His image on them and then commanded them to multiply. We are image bearers to our children. The number one responsibility of parents is to show the character of God to your children. But every parent is imperfect. No parent is perfect, but some are more perfect than others. And so God said this, you love me with all of your hearts, and you teach your children diligently my word. This is Ephesians 6:4 in the New Testament. And you fathers, do not provoke your children to wrath, but bring them up in the training and admonition of the Lord. That is specifically addressed to fathers, by the way, because fathers are responsible for the education of their children, not mothers. Mothers obviously are just as important as fathers, but fathers are supposed to lead. They're supposed to be the leader of the home, take the initiative of the well-being of the home. And it says don't provoke your children to wrath. Here's what provokes children to wrath, is barking at them without showing them how to do it. Don't do that. Do this. And you bark at non-relational parenting, barking at parenting. We're supposed to patiently teach our children the way to do things. We're supposed to walk next to our children. It says when they're lying on their bed at night, when they're rising up in the morning, when you're sitting in your house, when you're on your way somewhere, diligently take those times, those contemplative times, and diligently teach your children. And I've said this to all parents, and I know we know this, it's not the church's responsibility or the school's responsibility to educate your children and raise your children. It's your responsibility. And we can come alongside you and partner with you in that process, but don't let the TV raise your children. Don't let the computer raise your children. Don't let somebody else raise your children. You raise your children. And don't trust them with a phone. And don't trust them with a computer. My kid said one time, you don't trust me? It's like, of course I don't trust you. You know, you're a child. You're being tempted. I'm going to smell your breath, look you in the eye, and check everything you got 3 times. You're a child. You're being tempted. In this world that we have right now, there's never been a world this evil. Check your children out. Let me say, your children won't mind as long as you love them and you're having fun with them. If you are coming alongside your child in a relational way, and you are befriending your children, your children don't have to like you all the time, but I'm saying you have a relationship with your kids. You're not barking at your kids. You're not leaving your children to be raised by somebody else, but you're raising your children. You're spending time with your children. And in the process of that, you hold them accountable. Our children, all the music they listen to, everything that came into our house, we monitored it very closely. And when they got their first car, we knew that they could listen to any music that they wanted to listen to. But for all the years up to that, we only had good music in our house and good entertainment in our house. We carefully monitored what came into our children's lives because it's that important. Well, so a parent is responsible for that. So a parent, all of us are imperfect, and so we are responsible, for being a good example to our children and training our children upright. Well, let me say this. Wherever you are godly and you train your children upright, your children grow up like this. They don't have a bent toward those things because they saw it properly. But all of us are imperfect. I was an imperfect parent. Karen was an imperfect parent. And so we're all imperfect. And when we're imperfect, our children will get a bent toward the behavior that we're involved in. Here's an example of iniquities. Anger. Now, I'm not talking about just being angry. We all get angry. I'm talking about bad anger, dealing with anger in improper ways. Substance abuse, chauvinism, sexism, physical abuse, racism, bigotry, verbal abuse, immorality, pride, sexual abuse, negativity, dishonesty, materialism, perfectionism, divorce, gossip, unforgiveness, greed, conditional love, performance motivation, all those kinds of things like that, those can be iniquities. Things that our parents did that we pick up a tendency toward. And so you say, well, I don't know if I have iniquities or not. Well, let me ask you these questions, and you can kind of think these things through regarding iniquities for yourself. Were the things you were exposed to while you were growing up biblically sound and morally correct? I mean, was your family a godly family? The way people in your family resolved conflict, was it right? The way your family handled money, the way your parents treated others, and attitudes about the opposite sex, attitudes towards submission to God and the Bible, attitudes toward children and values in life. I mean, were you raised in a family where the values and just the beliefs of your family and practices, was it biblical? Was it a godly kind of family? Secondly, do you practice the same things you didn't agree with or like about your parents? And see, here's the terrible thing about iniquities. We don't like what our parents did, and we end up doing it. My father was a finger snapper. My father, when we were in trouble, there's two ways you knew you're in trouble. He snapped his fingers and said, "Little man." That means you're about to die. My brothers and I call each other little man to this day, when I'm not calling them Damien and Lucifer behind their back. But my dad would go, "Little man," like that. And I just hated that. And I thought, somebody snapping their fingers at me just goes all over me. Well, Julie, our daughter, when she was a little baby, she did something one day, and I said, "Hey, what? It just went off. I didn't try." So you got your little recorder going on when you're a kid being raised by your parents, and you've got an audio and video recorder, and no one is more profoundly influencing your life when you're growing up than your parents. You've got the video archive. And so when you're an adult and now life begins to punch on you and press you, you go to that video archive and you retrieve it. Like it or not, we are normally going to respond the way our parents responded.
Thank you for watching Marriage Today with Jimmy and Karen. Support Marriage Today with your best gift and receive the series The Hurt Pocket. Experience release and freedom from the pain of your past with the life-changing book, When Life Hurts, by Jimmy Evans. Visit whenlifehurtsbook.com. Follow your interests and get social by connecting with Jimmy and Karen and the Ministry of Marriage Today on Twitter. Become a rock-solid partner today and equip yourself with the tools you need for a successful marriage. $14, $28, or $56 per month. Choose the partnership level that's right for you. Become a rock-solid partner today.